goes, okay, why are you?
Said John on his way.
And I went through my truck, it's immaculate.
Yeah, people mover thing.
I was driving, right? So you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they turned to him and said, what are you doing? You know what? I'm going down to work.
MNR, like,
Yeah, but
like,
Oh, yeah, really?
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
it was almost like a, this was like a down payment 5 years ago. We draw the one bill.
And what happened? What happened?
From the state.
Do like now.
here.
I was explaining. Probably.
Of the venue.
Right.
And then ends up, it turns around
Recently. This was three.
because the venue is
Sort of get started.
that it has
Under.
I met with
class companies.
Hi.
It was.
Nice to meet you.
And
David.
One.
What do you mean, Dory? You. Is the other one, the delegates?
okay,
That's a problem.
we still need a quorum, but we're not gonna start the meeting, but we are gonna go to non-items that need like votes and stuff. So we're gonna go to item 7, which is presentations. Okay? That way, for the sake of time, we kind of move on. Right? All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Our first presentation tonight is the first quarter progress report. Everybody?
Hello?
This is the first quarter progress report on our energy and climate recognition program. We're very excited about the way all of our cities have gotten involved in this. And tonight, our presenter will be Kevin Trong, who is our Civic Spark Fellow and is on this program. So Kevin?
Thank you, Kevin.
Isn't here yet, but Gardina's right here.
Oh, props too, huh? We'll go over this later.
I'm sorry, did Gardena get another one?
Gardena got another?
We're trying this out.
I ask a question before we start.
Go ahead.
Sure.
We're having trouble with a quorum. And one of our voting members is sick. Is he able to call in and get on it, or is it too late for that?
We still need a quorum in person.
In person. All right, doesn't affect it.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you for checking.
But good, thank you. Yeah. Stay for this. Yeah.
I know, I've heard.
Your stuff.
Okay, Kevin.
Yes. Okay, awesome.
Before we start, how many? Hello, everybody.
What? What?
You guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
How many are we short for a quorum in person?
Two.
And we know 3 people are on their way.
Okay,
Well, okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Cedric.
thank you. Thanks.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, awesome. So hello again, everyone. I'm Kevin Trung and I'm a Civic Spark Fellow with the South Bay Cities COG, working on our energy efficiency programs and some of our climate work as well. Today I'm here to present on the third year of our energy and climate recognition program with our quarter 1 update. So just to briefly recap, the goal of this program is basically to recognize all your cities and your staff's hard work to promote energy efficiency and sustainability within your cities. And so to go over how to earn points for this program, we split up our points into 3 different categories: climate action, adaptation and sustainability, education, networking and engagement, and technical assistance. So your city must complete at least one activity in each of these categories in order to qualify for a rank. So with that, I'd like to go over the different recognition levels that we have. So we have bronze, silver, gold, and we've made some changes to it. The first one, most notable one, is that over the past 2 years, we've noticed that you all have been incredibly proactive and competitive in trying to score points and promote this work on sustainability for your cities. So we've added a new platinum level where if you score 30 or more points, you get platinum. We've also raised the max amount of points. That's all your each level. So it takes more points to get to silver and gold. We've also added some new points as well. Listed here are just some key examples, such as the communication or promotion of residential or commercial programs, presenting best practices or experiences at an energy management working group. FYI, we have our next one coming up in a month, so if there's something that your staff are working on that you'd like to know, that maybe nudge your staff to come and present for us. And last one, as another example, obtaining sustainability certification for a municipal building. So if you're working on LEED certification, energy source certification, or another sustainability certification, that will also earn your city a good number of points. So here is where all the cities stand as of Q1 of April of 2025. So again, I'd like to shout out the cities of Torrance and Gardena and the city staff for obtaining.
Timing, good timing.
Yeah, city staff have been very proactive in like getting points for your cities. It's like very detailed reports as well. So shout out to your staff and shout out to both of you for the goal. In bronze, we have the cities of El Segundo, Manhattan Beach. So congratulations to both of you as well. And in progress are the remaining cities. I should like to add that it is April. We still have 6 to 7 months for the cities to earn more points. So there's still plenty of time, but yeah, just make sure we still time, just make sure to get working on scoring more points and potentially scoring bronze, gold, or even platinum. Not too late. So here's are some additional activities that your city staff can work on to score points in the program. This includes implementing an on-site renewable energy system or purchasing a clean energy. Having us, if you'd like me to speak or if you'd like someone else to speak, come to present to city staff, committees, your commissions, or your city councils on energy or climate. Participating in either a South Bay COG or partner program, with examples listed below. And finally, communicating potential and planned sustainability initiatives with the COG prior to implementation. Again, these are just some example activities. A full list of this is available in our program guidelines, which we have shared with your city staff. So next steps from here. Basically, we're going to have you continue to complete your activities and document the activities that you're working on. We, as well as the SoCal REN, can assist your cities in completing energy efficiency projects. And towards the end of June, your city staff will send progress reports to us where we will then, I or someone else will then present the next standings. So with that, if you have any questions or corrections or any updates and additional concerns, you can reach out to Eleanor or to me. And with that, that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any quick questions?
Sure.
Go ahead.
How do we know, as you know, council members in the cities, whether our staff is proactively taking advantage of these programs? Energy efficiency, besides the points right there, like let's say we've only got 2 points, how do we know that they're striving to be like Gardena or Torrance?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think because I think it depends on like how much we like to we are corresponding with your city stuff, and that's something you can update you on. Thank you.
And I think what we try to do, we have these quarterly, right? So that you'll see your status. You can always reach out to us directly, but also you'll notice in my staff update report that's on the Environmental Services Center, you'll see the different activities that your city is involved in. So that's another way that we can do it. Yeah.
So do you share this, let's say, city managers meeting or whatnot?
We haven't shared it at city managers, but we do meet with the city staff that are implementing these programs regularly. So we meet with them like quarterly to talk about different programs that they can participate in. And then we correspond with them like with email, but I don't think we talked about it at the city managers meeting.
Because that goes back to kind of Zane's point, right? I mean, I think if the city managers were aware that, hey, this thing's going to get shown and it may not be a good reflection of the city, good, bad, or whatever the case may be, they may take more action than, at least they'll be cognizant, they may take more action, with my observation.
But to your point, the reason why Gardena got gold the first time was because I actually went to the city manager and I went to our public works director, and I know the girl that was in charge of doing this. And I said, look, we're not going to have bronze anymore. This is not going to happen, especially as the board chair. It's not going to happen. So the next thing I knew, we had gold. So and then, this new platinum one, the girl that's actually in charge goes, well, why can't we have platinum? So I brought that up and they said, okay, we'll have platinum.
I'm just saying from a level of.
Yeah.
That's
It's a
kinda-
really good recommendation. There's two things I heard. One, we could either go to the city managers or we could make all of you chair.
See, all I have to do is go back to my city and say Rolling Hills Estates has twice as many points as we do. That'll get them.
Fire.
Well, Hawthorne got gold before, right?
That's right.
Alright.
Not that Devin, say you had twice as many
It's
points.
early in the game, so. And,
Good
and
job, Kevin.
George is gonna be trying to get platinum. Okay. So what we have now is, guess what? We have a quorum. We will now call this meeting to order. And we need to verify, yes, there is a quorum.
Yes.
Okay. Posting the agenda.
But do we have to, I think we have to let Cedric in.
Oh, Cedric.
He's not on anymore, so,
He left?
yes.
He went away?
When he comes, when he comes back, we'll do his AB.
Oh, dear.
Okay,
Maybe he's coming in now. I doubt it.
all right. So posting of the agenda.
Yes, the agenda. was
Okay,
posted.
and announcements of any changes to the agenda.
No, there's, the only thing I want to point out is it's not clearly labeled at the very end of the reports. The appointments to opportunity to serve is an action item.
Here's an action item.
Yes,
Okay,
that's all.
okay. Consent calendar. Anything, anybody want to pull anything off the consent calendar? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Second.
We have a second. David?
Any opposition? Any abstention?
Okay, guess what? Now we're gonna go back to the presentations.
No, public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. I missed it. Okay, so public comment. I was trying to move through this. Okay,
Trying to make up some time. huh?
I know, we're trying to make up time. Okay, public comment. Let's see, we have a bunch of them. So let's start with Apahi Sharma. Is that correct?
Do you want him to?
Not correct. Also, I don't know how the public comment sessions work for COG, but it's for an item that's on the agenda. Is that
Okay,
right?
later.
This, when that comes up,
Yeah,
Which item is it?
it's measure N. I think it's for number 7.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you,
Yes.
thank you.
okay, so we'll bring you back. Yep. Let's go to Andrew Akers.
I'm also commenting on something on the agenda.
Okay.
And what
And
item
which
is?
one is that? Number what?
I believe that is the measure M as well.
Okay. And let's see, we have Beauvais, LaMonica, Maggie. Maggie?
And I'm bringing a co-conspirator with me.
Oh, no, she's not approved. She's not on the list.
You don't change.
She's a Mohican, I'll let her in.
All right, it's awkward standing over here.
Okay, go ahead. And just to
We're
let
gonna
you
have
guys
a-
know, because we're packed tonight, we're giving you 2 minutes.
Ooh.
So speak fast.
Thank you. My
Sorry.
name is Hildy Stern. I'm a longtime resident of Manhattan Beach. And I was also a delegate to the club many years ago. We're here to talk about the South Bay Community Coalition Against Hate. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. I'm going to talk fast so that Maggie has a chance to talk. The South Bay Community Coalition Against Hate was formed on October 22nd by the direction of the Manhattan Beach City Council. And it was, at that time, it was to address the increase in hate incidents that were on the rise in Manhattan Beach and throughout the South Bay. We initially formed with about 15 members. It included school board members and staff, city council and staff, faith-based organizations, Chamber of Commerce, county supervisor, and county programs. We met once a week to introduce programming for the week of United Against Hate Week. which was in November of 2022. Since then, our membership has grown and we've reached over 60 members across the South Bay. We have representatives from El Segundo, Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach. It includes elected officials from the cities and schools, as well as the county and state representatives of the South Bay, faith-based organizations, and other government programs like LA versus Hate in the city's health district. As you can see, it's a collaboration of thought leaders representing a broad sector of our South Bay who come together to reduce all acts of hatred. The focus is on programming, advocacy, community support, education, training, and shared resources. We meet once a month, and at our meetings, we plan events, share information, discuss strategies, and act as a resource for each other in our shared vision to support a community in which all are welcome with kindness, respect, and peaceful coexistence for the betterment of all who visit, live, and work in the South Bay cities. I'm going to turn this over to Maggie.
Maggie Bova LaMonica. I'm currently Hermosa Beach City School District board member and chair of replacing Hildy's leadership as our initial and inaugural chair. So this is really an invitation to the COG to come and join our ranks. Again, we have city, school district, faith-based and nonprofit organizations. We are looking for more folks to join this effort. We meet regularly with the supervisor's office, and so this is coming from their purview that this is an important initiative, and where we have been ranked as one of the most active and most prolific groups that are doing this work statewide. So, you know, this is something I'm really proud of, the work that Hildy has started. We'd like this to see amplified across the South Bay. So when we say the South Bay Community Coalition, it truly is representative of the entire South Bay. I know Jackie has my information, Dean has my information, Ray Jackson has my information. I'll leave some cards as well, or maybe a follow-up email can go out to the group afterwards with that information. There is no real formal infrastructure in terms of like a website. We do have a Google Docs drive that's very robust that I'm happy to share with folks when it comes to resources. But this is truly finding a representative and then coming into our bi-monthly meetings to be to have an opportunity to share and collaborate with us.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that I got Maggie's name and I knew Hildy, but from District 2, Supervisor Mitchell asked us to get in touch and coordinate this. We obviously can't take action now, but if you would like the COG to be more involved, we could bring this up at a steering committee meeting, or you can obviously do things in your own individual cities. So,
Okay.
Bi-monthly, you mean twice a month or every 2 months?
Oh, yeah, every other month.
Okay,
Every other.
That was the wrong, yeah.
no, that's the right word. It's just,
That's right.
it's ambiguous.
You have other stuff you want to put out?
That's a great
I
story.
know is Coalition Against Hate. Is it broad to include everything, or is it related to sex, race, and all that? Because there's always been a confusion.
I don't know if there's a confusion about it. It started out of social unrest of George Floyd's murder in 2020, right? And so it was a supervisor-led initiative against hate. And so it also has then created the annual hate crimes report. So anything that is deemed a hate crime is kind of underneath this purview. And so there's an annual report that comes out of this that's led by the county. We just had their task force coming present to us.
Well, I was just curious. There's a lot of hate in the community. This is based on race, sex, but it's going on rapidly, and I'm hoping that we can get those things resolved and improve it, because it's just saddening to see. It divides our community terribly, and we need to do something about it. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
that's why we formed.
Yeah. So I would suggest that you send something official to Jackie, and we'll see, we'll discuss it.
Discuss it as
Yeah,
steering
we'll
committee.
discuss it.
Over involvement.
So we'll give it some consideration.
Happy to talk via phone
Okay.
if anybody wants to just learn more.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Eric Rodriguez.
Good evening, board directors. Eric Rodriguez with the SCAG, Southern California Association of Governments. I'm the LA County Government Affairs Officer. I have two quick notices. It's not too late to sign up for our 2025 SCAG Regional Conference and General Assembly. It's in the lovely city of Palm Desert at the GW Marriott. Your board director and colleague, the council member from Hawthorne, Ontario, is attending, so if you want to hang out with him on the weekend, he'll be there. We'll have 191.
I'm a fire animal.
Yes, 6 counties, a lot of your colleagues.
I was going until Hawthorne was going.
The good
I'm a
thing is
delegate,
it's
so I have
free
to
for
go.
city council members, so it's free to attend, and city managers, if you have favorite city managers you want to bring as well. Again, that's May 1st, May 2nd, Thursday and Friday. It's our 60th anniversary, so we are going big. So if you'd like to attend, I have some flyers I can pass out. And then just recently, with the support of all of our regional council members, which makes up 86 in all 191 cities, we just recently released our 2025 SCAG legislative priorities. This year, we're really addressing the regional housing needs, again, of course, as we normally do, creating a more resilient Southern California, and then trying to maximize our transportation dollars so they can go further. And I have some of these that I can pass out as well. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be here. And if you have any input on this, we'd love to hear from you. Once a month, we have our legislative committee, and that's a good place to, provide any input. If there's any legislative bills, like the mayor from Rolling Hills Estates has provided me, so we can really take those back and consider those with some of your regional council staff to really gun ho and see what we can do in Sacramento and in DC. So thank you for that. If you have any questions, happy to help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, we have Brianna Egan.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Brianna Egan. I'm sharing comments tonight on behalf of South Bay Forward, which is our volunteer-run advocacy organization, moving the South Bay region forward on the areas of housing, transit, and active mobility. So tonight I want to summarize the comments that we shared in our written letter, which I emailed to the members of the board, and apologies for getting it in after 5 p.m., but thank you for taking the time to read it. So in summary, we represent members around 500 residents across the region who are interested in transportation and mobility improvements in the South Bay. Previously, we have shared our support for various projects at the South Bay City's COG, such as the Sea Line extension to Torrance, the LAX Metro station, and various other projects. And I want to note that Metro announced today that the LAX Metro station will be opening June 6th. So we hope to see you all there to celebrate that event. We've also been engaging directly with individual COG members to share our transit and mobility priority projects, which we attach to our letter. At least one of these projects will be advanced today, the Carson to the Sea project. And other projects are in process, like the LAX Metro Station, BCT Metro Go Pass enrollment, and various protected bike lane projects. But we have more projects that we are excited about, and we would like to work with you to advance forward. These include the Vermont Transit Corridor South Bay Extension, transit improvements at the Harbor Gateway Transit Center in advance for the 2028 Olympics, an I-405 Freeway Express bus, and various other projects like bus rapid transit, bus frequency improvements, and even open streets cyclovia events. So we really hope to see you advance these types of projects in future funding rounds for Measure M, and we look forward to engaging and working with you to advance them. With regards to Measure
Okay,
M and Measure
Brianna, just wrap it up because your time's up. So just wrap up your thoughts.
Okay, I think I will then speak on item 8, if that's okay.
Okay, you can come back on item 8.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mary Simon, you're up. Mary, are you still there?
Sorry, I was having a difficult time unmuting. Hi, thank you so much, directors, for taking my call. Sorry, I can't be there in person. I'm calling because I'm passionate about bike riding. I ride my bicycle everywhere. I'm a compulsive volunteer in the South Bay. I go all over Gardena, Lawndale, Hawthorne, Manhattan, Hermosa, Redondo. I live in Torrance. And as it stands right now, it's very difficult to get from one place to another in many areas on the bicycle. So I'm encouraging you to support the Redondo Beach Boulevard MAT project, because I think it would be absolutely delightful to not have to get in the car. I try to ride my bicycle everywhere, but some places it's just too dangerous. When I go to the South Bay LGBTQ Center, I did it once on my bike and I was sure I was going to die. So now I have to drive, and that's a decent distance to bicycle. It's not too far, but even taking side streets, it was super hairy. So I really want to encourage you to look at exploring alternatives. It's better for the climate. It's better for our health. It reduces traffic congestion. There are just so many benefits to bike riding. And I teach middle and high school students, and I love to model this behavior for them and show them that they don't have to get into a car everywhere they go. So thank you for listening to me, and I look forward to increased bike lanes and ways to get around on foot and anything other than driving in a car to get all throughout this gorgeous, wonderful, beautiful South Bay we live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And maybe somebody from the COG that does those topics will get a hold of you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I don't think I see any other comments, public. So let's go back to item,
Now we're on the presentations again.
we're going back to presentations, so.
So as you know, this is Earth Month.
Yeah.
And on Earth Month, Wally made a presentation to the steering committee and talked a little bit about some of the climate issues that are really important. We all need to. And so he said he was going to come back, and we thought Earth Month would be a good time for him to do another installment. And we're calling these installments because talking about some of the things we're learning as we go through, as he does research and learns more. So Wally, I'm going to turn that sideways. Whichever way, I mean, it's movable. It's in the hallway. Okay, okay.
David, it's the second from the bottom, is that it?
Yes,
me.
yes, it's the down arrow.
Down arrow, okay, well, we'll see. Yeah, so as Jackie said, I think it's going to be 4 presentations. This is the second of them. The first one was at the steering committee in March. And it was about the direct costs of climate change, of heat, and that's what gets all the attention, the stuff that's destroyed. So what I'm talking about tonight is collateral damage, meaning the stuff that happens after the damage goes on, that's more in the background, you might say, and it gets less attention. So we wanted to talk about it. And unless you get really depressed during this, which I get depressed doing it, we're going to some place, which is strategies, COG strategies at the end so we're going to try and get to pep you up on something that there's an urgent matter of implementing. We do the planning, you do the implementing. So that's where we're headed. I also want to say that I'm doing this with a great deal of humility, and that there's so much to be said about this. And this is not in any way comprehensive. It's just, it's to point out that everything's connected to everything else, and that's what you should worry about. So let's try and dive in. Maybe. Oh, also, I'm not going to. That's animated, huh? Look at that. That's raining. I already know. Also, I'm going to sort of read through the slides in part because it got late all of a sudden, but also because you can look at the data. There's information on each of them. If you want to look on the site, you can read it at another time. So just hit the big points. So also, I wanted to say, Jackie felt and I felt that it was important to sort of give reference points to all this. And the International Panel on Climate Change just generates a ton of information. And if you wanted to go deeper into it, just Google IPCC, you'll be there. It's a creation of the United Nations, basically, and they don't do any research themselves, but they survey all of the scientific research and then summarize it in reports. And the one that's current was out in 2023. The next one's coming up in 2027. And I took in red, I borrowed this, it's a quote from a summary of what the last 2023 report. The world needs to peak greenhouse gas emissions before 2025 at the very latest. Nearly half greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and reach net zero by around mid-century. That's what they said in 2023. None of that has happened. We are not going to have it by 2030. We are not close to peaking in 2025. And what they don't say at the end of this is, or what? And the or what is that we will reach tipping points in the carbon sinks And then all hell breaks loose. Then we've lost control of it. Our environment becomes a runaway furnace. So that's the urgency behind this, and I can't stress it enough. I take this stuff very seriously. It keeps me away from it. Other stuff does too, but. Oh, I went too far. So this is a brief summary, one slide of the previous talk, which is that we know that these climate events are coming more frequently, they're more severe, they last longer. And I found an article that said the damage for the first 2 decades of this century was $160 million an hour in direct damage. Not what I'm talking about tonight, direct damage. And the Pacific Palisades fire was over $200 billion of direct damage, stuff that burned and got destroyed. Call your attention to the graph on the side. It's like the blue line is we were doing pretty good. And then in the mid-90s, you see the blue line turns up. And the red line represents the direction we're heading under business as usual. So if I said at the General Assembly when I was talking about this a little bit, everybody, if you're not uncomfortable about not doing business as usual, then I don't know, I get scared by that stuff. But this is the problem. We're going to have to do it. So, or we face the carbon sink issue. Okay, so just to review, so we talked about the $200 billion of damage to the Palisades. But firefighters were in a toxic world like those after 9/11. And so they have the literature saying their lifespan will be shorter because of their thorough dissipation. The ocean got contaminated with these rain and runoffs. We had over 1 million tons of debris, which then what to do with it was a political issue and not necessarily well served. I saw an article that said that surviving businesses just along PCH, they've lost 50% of their revenue, and some of them went out of business, and most of them are not open full time anymore. And the damage to the economy is going to take maybe 10 years, 5 to 10 years to recover. So we all know that heat kills. And what was interesting to me was that if you're standing in the rain and it's 87 degrees, you will die. That's the wet bulb temperature. The combination of humidity and heat will kill you. And there's this whole idea of if it's dry heat, you still don't do well at 108 degrees. It depends on how long your exposure is, how long you're going to stand there. But it is deadly. We're talking about heat kills, and it does. I think that Phoenix is a very interesting laboratory for heat. They had 110 degrees for 56 consecutive days, which is unthinkable to me. I mean, if it gets above 72, I get a little queasy. And 645 people died in 2023, most of them homeless. Because you imagine if you're out in that heat and there's nowhere to shelter, this is how come you die. So I think it's interesting looking at 2025. We're heading into the heat season, so we'll see. Although in Phoenix, it's probably all year long. Now, the theme throughout all of this is that everything that we've designed, the systems, the things, were designed with a different environment in mind. So there is virtually nothing we have that is very well suited to the environment that we have and where it's going, and that's systems as well. So the theme that goes through all of this is overwhelmed. The systems are overwhelmed. The structures are overwhelmed, and we're not prepared. So these are just going to be examples, but that's the theme for every single slide. There's only like 9 of them. So we were designed for a cooler environment. And I like this, I lifted this quote: heat kills everything, causes everything to be less efficient. And it's like a slow moving disaster, and that it doesn't happen at the same time a fire explodes. The buildings and the streets and all of it erodes over time, but heat just wears it down. So we've known to see. Come on in. Carry on. Carry on. That's good. And the wear and tear goes on. I mean, the fact is it wears you down. And air conditioning, for example, you have to work hard to reduce the temperature.
Now, as you can imagine, when there's heat, people go to the emergency room because they're hot and they're feeling some sort of sense of heat stroke. And what happens is that the system in the hospital gets overwhelmed because the people that are there for other reasons, the resources are redirected to people who just came into the emergency room who need treatment. So they found that there's 3% more deaths in hospitals during a heat wave, just because the system is overwhelmed. And schools, we know, most of them don't have air conditioning. And turns out, not a big surprise, kids don't, the student achievement is lower in conditions of heat. So housing, of course, the HCD this year looked at, and earlier in 2025, maybe we should have a requirement to retrofit all apartment buildings with air conditioning so that it's never more than 82 degrees. So one of the unintended consequences of this is going to put a lot of mom and pop apartment building. That means corporations will own it, and that means it will go up even more than the expense of putting in the air conditioning. You might have to replace your roof. It turns out that the soil also heats. The soil is holding some of that heat, and it causes foundations to shift and walls to crack. This is slow moving. And of course, it's really important for the occupants that we know that heat makes tempers turn into violence, and there will be more violence. And there's nature itself. Which trees are a heat sink, a carbon sink. They are actually dying at a faster rate and they're regenerating because of the wildfires, because of heat itself, because insects are moving into that environment. So we're losing the capacity to absorb carbon when the trees don't regenerate. Things like the pollinators, which are bees and butterflies and stuff like that. Well, our food chain depends on that, and almost a quarter of them are perhaps threatened with extinction. And this one is really surprising. Rat populations increases in the heat. And New York City is struggling with this now, which I think they deserve, but that's another issue. But it's a real deal. Heat encourages rat populations to grow. Then, of course, we know that heat causes premature deaths from wildfire that goes on. They call it, there's actually smoke waves, like there are heat waves or smoke waves. And we know that tropical diseases are moving north because the insects and the other vectors that carry them, their habitat is changing, and now they can go further north and south, and they're carrying with them this disease. So all of that is happening at the very same time. This overwhelms the health systems in those countries. And then we're going to have shortages of coffee, tea, cocoa, corn, rice, wheat, potatoes, soybeans, all within 5 years. And for all of you who love a cup of coffee in the morning, it's going to get tougher because the very area in which coffee grows, the climate is changing. It's no longer consistent. The coffee bean needs are no longer consistent. And in general, we're talking about things that all of it, the freezing, the growing season changes, and nutrition goes in. And of course, who's going to harvest the stuff, the food, if it's really hot? National defense, they see this as a threat multiplier. And that's because there's going to be conflict over food and water in particular. And the political instability comes from it. Migration, we're already seeing a tremendous amount of violence around migration. And then there's pure practical challenges like, wow, gosh, now it's raining all the time. Will my equipment still work? Can I still do my planned training exercises? What about the supply chains for my troops that are out there? What's going to happen to that under these new conditions? The conditions have changed. The systems have not. They're overwhelmed. And I will say that the military has been in on this for decades. They are aware of climate change being a threat to peace. This is the last one, and it's one that I have not fully understood. Everyone's concerned about biodiversity, but here's kind of why. A ecosystem has, it's known as having a bunch of species, different species in it. And there's something called a keystone species. And when that keystone, whatever it is, in coral, it's algae, but it's also, and as they say, starfish and gray wolves, depending on the forest and so forth. When that keystone species either dies out or reduces, the whole system collapses and it takes with them roughly half of all the species that are there. Why does this matter? Because we eat those species. In the case of coral beds, the fish are people who collect it. The tourists that go to see coral beds, all of it is now threatened by the increasing heat. And the literature is saying that large scale ecosystems are promised to collapse within 30 years. So this is what a slide I use in the General Assembly. We have to feel the urgency. I feel the urgency. I want all of you to feel the urgency because you're the implementers of stuff that makes a difference. And so we can't do business as usual anymore. I'll show you that curve going straight up. Business as usual. That's what we're doing. So I want to future-proof the South Bay. That's self-reliant. It's resistant. So we have little cute phrases for all but one. Love your neighborhood mobility. That's a local use neighborhood. And so mobility, land use is neighborhoods great. And that includes housing, which as some of you know, I've spoken about housing policies of the state. And we need to accommodate that and work with it. Transition from those to wires, that's a digital network issue. I have a digital economy. And these others don't have particular cute phrases, but still, we're still working on that. It's the top three are mine.
Can we get on that?
Anyway.
This for the last.
This is very important, especially conserving water. So that's it. I mean, this will be on the website in case you want to go and read the details. Any questions?
Any quick questions for Wally?
Something's been.
No question. I got an observation. You know, when we were back in DC, we heard from Senator Whitehouse and he shared something similar, right? I mean, it was kind of hey, if you look at the climate environment and, you know, I'm not sure what the time frame was, but he said, hey, you know, at some point the heat's going to be such you aren't going to be able to live in Phoenix or you aren't going to be able to, you think about the fire areas, you're not going to be able to get insurance. And if you can't get insurance and you can't build homes, you can't buy homes, so you can't get insurance. You know, I saw the observation of 30 years. What's the time frame on when are we going to be really doom and gloom? Or are we, I mean, I know we're getting there, but is there a point where we're there?
Well, the scientists are saying we have to pull this out in 5 years or you're there. 2030 is it what the scientists said you want to see the peak carbon. So that means, see, right now, every year there's more carbon than the year before it. So it's not peaking. And they said they should be done by 2025, not happening. So 2030, I would think that it's absolutely essential. So when we're talking about the local travel network, when we're talking about rebuilding neighborhood centers, when we're talking about moving into a digital economy, it means now. And I can't tell you the number of times I've heard from cities like, well, come on. Come on, your pants are on fire. Does that help, Bill?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, you know, we've talked about the, let's say, climate resiliency centers, if you will.
Yes.
And you know, there's a perfect example where, no, it's not going to get any cooler. And we're going to have more people that won't, as your point, won't have AC. And so there's some examples where, you know, we should be able to do something in collaboration with our partners in the county.
Well, I will say the folks who don't get business as usual is out, or Caltrans, is the AQMD, SCAG, where's SCAG? Sorry. Everything moves too slowly. It takes Caltrans a year to put out something called a sustainable community grant, a year. Oh, there's the early draft. Take a look at the NOFO. Oh, well, then we have to get 3 months for the draft. Then we take 3 or 4 months to actually evaluate them. Then we announce the winner. Then we sign a contract. So if it's sustainable and it's about this, why the hell aren't you getting it done in 60 days? I mean, that's where we're at. You got to do it in 60 days.
Wally?
Go ahead, Zane.
I think the doom and gloom is starting now. I just got an email today from the Marine Mammal Care Center. The largest toxic algae bloom in the history of LA County occurring now, with more sea lions and dolphins stranding than ever, and they're basically entering a triage system. Anybody who's been with them for 2 days has at least gotten healthy food for 2 days. They're out, and these sick animals are in because they're at capacity.
Exactly the point.
The birds too. The birds, they're, yeah.
Real cheery meeting.
Yeah.
So, another note about the birds, this whole bird flu issue is now moving in the United States. I just saw it on 60 Minutes to the cows. And yeah, moving to the cats. So we're gonna get a little more disease too, potentially, if it's not addressed.
I wrote an essay about during COVID that said, we're lucky so far because the big one hasn't come. You know, you talk about the earthquake, the big one. The big one is gonna be something that spreads like measles and kills like Ebola. And it's coming. There's no way it doesn't happen. So you want doom and gloom? That is. Disease is gonna be the hammer.
Don't give him any more incentive. He can do much more.
Also, I'm available if you have any family gatherings you want to bring.
Wally, I know we should act. I agree. What's the story with China? We hear that no matter what we do, they're putting so much carbon into the atmosphere that it's going to destroy everything.
Well, yes, we can only do what we can do. And that's going very well, although we're not as bad as China. But China also has some real assets. They have a lot of hydroelectric. They also are leading the world in electric vehicles. My son lives in Hong Kong, has done for years. And he went to a car show kind of thing. He said, my God, the Chinese electric vehicles are so gorgeous that they keep them out. I mean, they would eat Tesla for dinner. I mean, they really are beautiful. They're cheap. They're half price of what they are here. So, and there's so many of them on the road. I mean, there's a lot of electric transportation there.
What's better about them? What's better about their looks, their price? So they go further.
Okay. The batteries get changed out rather than sitting there to charge.
BYD, Google BYD in China.
I know BYD. I saw they were here in Beverly Hills and they showed me their product.
Anyway, so they have a great EV industry. Also, that's one, the third talk I'm gonna give is on the benefit of small battery devices, which is when we talk about the local travel network, we talk about local vehicles. That's because they use a fraction of the energy to get around. And when you start going to I've got some data on this. If you start going to 7-Eleven and you're driving a Ford Explorer, or if you're driving a Tesla, or if you're in a bus, it's something like the calculation is if you don't have 15 people on that electric bus, you're wasting energy. And so that's why we're going to personal, on-demand, door-to-door, small vehicles that have small batteries. And it depends on the local travel network. It depends on the mobility hubs we're working on. Questions. I get the long questions. That's okay.
You said they changed the batteries out though?
Some of the cars they do. I know Xpeng does.
How is that more efficient?
Because you're not sitting there to charge for half.
I get that, but where do you get all these batteries from?
They're making
China.
China. Yeah, factories in China.
Sorry. Okay, thank you, Wally. We appreciate you.
Really, should I sit down?
Because you could do it in time.
Where's the?
I can. Thank you, Roger.
You gotta be speaking to the.
Okay, so the moment we've all been waiting for is we're gonna hear from our graduates.
I want to say that the California Council of, the California Association of Councils of Government is something we belong to. They do a very, I think, pretty prestigious program, which is their Leadership Academy. And you have to, apply for it. It does cost money. This year sent David Leger to the Academy, and it is a leadership training. CalCOG is an organization of mostly transportation agencies. So he learned, I think, a lot about that too. But anyway, we thought it'd be good to hear some of the stuff that he's learning in the trainings.
Give us our money's worth.
It's over now.
Okay, so quick overview of the program. It's a 7-month program, started in September, got over in March. It's aimed at mid-career professionals in regional governments. Ages ranged,
but mid-career. And CalCog does a really good job of trying to pick a diverse group of participants. I had colleagues from SCAG, Metro, ARCOG, San Gabriel Valley, and then some really tiny ones up north. Caltrans was a participant, and so it was a pretty diverse between geography, experience. There were planners, generalists like myself, accountants, so a little bit of everybody. Some of the goals, really a big part of it is internal. Learning about yourself, how you lead. We did DISC assessments, things like that. How to leverage those strengths. A better understanding of the variety of regional governments and the complexities that come with being a regional government. And then developing a network of peers throughout the state. So what is it? There's a lot of training sessions, kind of half-day things, DISC assessments, the Gallup Strengths Finder, things like that. Some really kind of basic day-to-day things like how to do better PowerPoints. One of the really interesting ones is the regional executive speaker conversations where they bring in either executive directors or prior Carl participants to kind of share their leadership journey and explain how they got to where they are. The Carl on the road are kind of the field trips. We did a couple of those. We read a couple books, did a group project, and then they usually have some sort of networking sort of opportunity on the first evening of the sessions. There were 7 sessions throughout the state. This year, a lot of them were in Sacramento. We did one in San Diego. There was a day trip to Stockton, San Francisco, and unfortunately, the LA one got canceled. It was right the week after the fires. And they're usually 2 full days. Each session is a little bit different, but it's usually a few speakers and facilitators, a field trip or a leadership journey discussion, and then a networking event in the evening. The 2 books that we read this year were The Color of Law and How Leaders Learn. The Color of Law was a really good book if you have not read it. It kind of gives you an insight into how planning and just policies from the federal level down to the cities lead to segregation. And it, at least for myself, it felt like it was something that was much long ago. But some of this stuff lingered into the 80s and 90s and probably still today if you really look at it. The How Leaders Learn book I felt it was a little bit more aimed at kind of business, but you can kind of, it was the author, he ran, I think, Yum Brands that owns like Taco Bell. And it's a quick read, but you have to kind of extrapolate that in my mind to the government at least, but. We did a group project, and it was a podcast. So we had to do a 30-minute podcast with a regional leader. My group, we picked Will Kempton, who was the Caltrans director under Governor Schwarzenegger, and we talked to him about his leadership journey, what his beliefs were in making an effective leader, and then we had to do a little 1-minute trailer on the video or on the podcast. I'm going to skip it for time's sake. But that link is there. Some of my key takeaways, no 2 people who end up in a leadership position have the same journey. And there's always a lot to learn if you kind of look to the past, particularly the Color of Law book. Understanding and appreciating your own strengths. That one was a big one for me that I didn't really realize that some of the things that I already kind of do naturally are leadership qualities. The leaders don't always have to lead from the front. Good leaders can lead from the back and get their followers to kind of be at the front. Being a multiplier for those that you work with, especially in regional governments, you need that team. And then again, the network of peers is very, very valuable, especially in regional government where it's this kind of niche level of government that only those of us who kind of work in it kind of understand. And having a network of peers in large organizations, small ones, different job descriptions, it's very, very valuable. Some of the quotes that kind of were used in our various sessions, leaders do not force people to follow, they invite them on a journey. That one kind of stuck out with me. And that there's a very big difference between management and leadership. Management is a formal authority and leadership is kind of how you work with others. Some of the photo highlights, we did a tour of, one of the field trips was of the low sand corridor rail line going through San Diego and Del Mar. I'm sure you guys have seen on the news, the bluffs are eroding and they've got a huge project to try and figure out what to do with the rail line. So we were able to go with some of the Sandag planning folks and they walked us along the bluffs and we were able to see some of the improvements that they've been making and we discussed some of the proposals for fixing the rail line. The one in the upper right is a walking tour that we did of Stockton. There's a freeway that was installed by Caltrans many years ago, straight through the middle of Stockton, and it really kind of segregated the city. And there's a very, very vibrant Filipino town that all that's left at this point is a couple old decrepit buildings. And there's a very strong community there that's really trying to highlight it. And it was a little disheartening to see it kind of with your own eyes. But it was a really important thing to see, I think. This is our graduation at the CalCOG regional seminar that was in March. And that was our graduating class. It was a very, very good opportunity. I think there's a lot of takeaways and CalCOG will be doing, I'm now a Carl alumni, so I'm a Carla, and they will be doing Carl and Carla events in the future. And so it's probably not the end of my interaction with the group, the beginning, and we're the 7th class, so I'm sure there will be many more. But it was a very good opportunity. And so I would recommend it to folks that are in regional governments, just to learn more about yourself and learn more about other regional governments throughout the state. So I think. Yep, that was it.
Good job.
Reminding me of, he brought that Color of Law book back. I read it. It's really good read. But we put it in the front, which is our library. We have several books. When we have a book that we've read that we think is really great, we leave it in the front. So if there's anything, first of all, you can contribute, but you can also look it through. Our book library is like about 6 or 7 books now, but you know, it is something that somebody's read and thinks it would be good for everybody to do.
Okay, thank you. Good job, David. We appreciate it. Okay, moving on to item 8. Action program.
General Assembly. Have a.
Do it. I'll get back.
We're in leadership.
Yes.
Okay.
Are we here?
So this, if you're at steering committee, you will have seen this already. We do this quick recap at the end of each general assembly. We're starting off with some photos. This is our annual board photo. Some of the speakers throughout the event. Saying there's this really good one of you on the e-bike.
The seal there was keeping the hat on while I was thinking. Per hour.
So, okay, so attendees. This year we were pretty much in line with our kind of annual attendance rate. The 2024 one was the AI year, and that one was kind of an anomaly in the number of attendees and registrations. But we had 327 people in attendance. As you can see, there's that usual 100 or so people registered to show up, drop off. The interesting one for me this year was the walk-in rate was much lower than it normally is. I think 2023 was 13%. Last year was 16%. This year, for whatever reason, it dropped down to 9.5%. We had a good variety of attendees. A good chunk of them, about 23%, were city staff. about 20% were general residents from the South Bay. And that could also include some like business owners that just didn't specify otherwise. About 18% were our sponsors and exhibitors. Elected officials were 7%. By city, usual, Torrance was one of the larger attendees. Carson also had a good number of folks there. But I think we ended up having at least one person from each of our cities. Some of the responses, on the feedback survey, 90% rated the content 4 or more, 4 out of 5 or more. The 80% of folks rated it, the applicability of the sessions at a 4 or more. Every year, everybody likes the networking. Dan Sturgis was actually one of the most frequently noted favorite speakers for the day. And they were, last year we had some feedback that they wanted less networking. This year they wanted more networking. So maybe we'll find that sweet spot next year. And I think you probably noticed it, but one of the negative comments were the noisy doors, and we'll look at having that figured out next year. Some of the topics that we were looking, or that folks were interested in us looking into for next year, the homelessness and affordable housing, changing demographics, emergency preparedness, the impact from Washington, and then preparing for the Olympics and just the general sports events that are coming down our way in the next few years. Lots of great testimonials. I think one of mine and Jackie's favorites was the one from 2 of our speakers, the Atkins Realis folks. We enjoyed the energy and interest at the event. It was quite impressive and stands out in my mind as a great example of a COG working the way COGs should. And I think that is it. And if you guys have any questions, we are happy to answer.
Anybody? No, I just, go ahead.
Just wanted to commend the COG. It was a really great General Assembly highlighting the history of it. And I only could stay for a little bit in person. I had to go home, but I got to watch it on YouTube, and the sound quality and video quality was phenomenal. I don't feel like I missed a thing. So thank you for that.
Yeah, staff did a great job. So we really have to put our kudos out to them because they put this whole thing together. You know, without them, we don't have this General Assembly.
I have to do a special shout out to Eleanor and her team because I was so busy at CalCog this year. She was instrumental in making a lot of this stuff happen. So thank you, Eleanor.
No, it was really great. And so we'll be coming in the next summer with next year's topic. So think about that. Okay.
Okay.
So I realized that there's this one little line on the agenda that says South Bay Fiber Network. And it doesn't begin to tell you what that one line means. What you have a resolution tonight that is about moving the South Bay Fiber Network, we hope, to a whole new level. We have had for the last 5 years now, a very good partnership with American Dark Fiber. They put up the fiber network, they constructed it all. They got it started. They gave you very reliable service. They disrupted the market so that your rates were lower than what you could have gotten on the free market. I mean, whatever the market rate. The market came down to meet our rates. It was the South Bay Fiber Network has done most of what we wanted it to do, but it wasn't expanding. And so American Dark Fiber for the last someone to sell the network to, so that we could have a partner that could help us expand and get to what we really conceived of when we started, which was all of those things and more. And as you know, digital is becoming so important in the way we live our lives. So what you have before you today is a resolution to approve the sale of fiber network. In our agreement with American Dark Fiber, it said that the Council of Governments has to approve any sale. So that's why you're here. It's here on our agenda. It is a private sale, but we have the right to approve it. we have, the resolution you have has been, it was actually written, I think, by our lawyer. So, and it was sent to both American Dark Fiber and RSG, which is our new, the firm that's our new owner. Before we ask you to vote on the resolution, I just wanted to give you a little flavor of how the staff has been working with RSG and how we think that this is, I want to overcome, we're really excited about the fact that we're going to have this new focus on our fiber network. And Wally, I don't know if you want to say anything about this.
Gonna speak for Brent?
Oh, I want you to say 3 words. That's it. Just-
No, back in my checkered past, I was the chief of long range planning for the Department of Telecommunications for the city of Los Angeles. 2 years and 10 months of very, very tough work for the city. But I met a lot of executive. We hung out with AT&T folks and so forth. And we know that we danced with Crown Castle a little bit this last year. We know that we, Dave Daigle, I've known ADF for 3 or 4 years now. Brent is an entirely different person. He's accessible. He's smart. I spent more time with you personally than I ever did with any of those other folks I just mentioned. Brent is a human being. He's not a suit. You know, everybody else I mentioned is a suit. They come to these things and they have a certain kind of thing. Brent is a smart man. He's got good ideas. He's bringing us into where we wanted to go 3 or 4 years ago with ADF. And I just really like working with you. So thank you.
So then I want to also call the 2 people that really helped me with all of this were Wally and Jake. And Jake could not be here this evening, but I wanted you to say a few words, Jake.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jackie. Well, as I hope most of you know or have been talking with your IT directors or public work directors, Brent and RSG, along with his president of Fabric, which is their network solutions, Drew, have really taken the initiative and have met with the majority of cities, with the IT directors and some public work directors to conduct needs assessments and make sure that the network meets the goals and alleviates the concerns of the cities. First of all, also, I want to say we strongly appreciate all of your city staff for taking the time to meet with us and provide insights. It was very technical work, and it really was a great opportunity to learn more about all the fiber projects in the South Bay and how siloed some of those are. And that's part of the work that Brent and RSG and Fabric hopes to do, is aggregate all of these so we have a better understanding of the assets we have and where they can go in the future. RSG has showed great enthusiasm in addressing the fiber concerns of the city. As the expansion begins, I feel very confident that the priorities and the values of the city will remain at the heart of RSG. And I'm very excited to work with them to connect small businesses, the underserved communities, and the end goal being all residents in the South Bay. So I'm very pleased that we finally got this on the agenda for this board meeting, and I hope that it passes. Thank you.
It's a big issue. I mean, it's been taking a lot of our time. And so I want to introduce you to the man that is not in a suit. Brent Grisdell, who is the CEO president of RSG. And why don't you want to say a few words, Brent, at all?
Sure. We're really excited about the opportunity. We have a strong core value in serving community, and we would be the network operator as a service. So our goal is in alignment with the city's goals and meeting with getting service to the underserved and the general community of businesses that don't have adequate internet service right now. And I'm just thrilled. If you've met Drew, Drew was at the Council of Governments AGM, and we had a little booth there. He has built networks in Canada, in France, in the United States. So he's very experienced and knows how to do this. So we're very fortunate to have him as our lead in this project. Thank you very much. We really look forward to the opportunity.
So Jim has his hand up.
Jackie, is this a sale we're contemplating?
We're not selling. This is the American Dark Fiber is selling to RSG.
I get it. I get it. So it's a sale.
Sale.
So how is it in their performing interest to maintain our rates at the level they provided? Usually when someone invests in something, they do it with an economic upside in mind. So what guarantee will we have that we'll maintain the rate structure? That seems to be contrary to economic interest.
Well, first of all, they're buying the agreement that they have with us.
Okay.
And so those rates are in that agreement. And, and we have to negotiate those rates, but they have to negotiate those rates with us. So, and one of the things that has happened, and I don't, this, I'm probably talking out of my element, is that the commercial area companies have lowered their rates to meet our rates. So we are, you know, our rates are not, I mean, we're hoping we can lower our rates. In our master services agreement right now, it says the more people, or the more companies or what is it, connections we get, the rates can be lower. They will be lowered if we get more. What happened was American Dark Fiber stopped looking for those extra ones. And now we have somebody that's going to be looking. It's in his economic interest to find more connections, to get more money and to lower the rates.
Yeah, I don't want to be difficult, but that's contrary to capitalism. People don't buy things at lower rates. They don't.
You want.
They don't.
Brent's a comment. I mean, that's true. What if we don't approve this? I would think we would have the current company that would have to work harder to keep the rates lower for us.
The rates is the rates is not the issue. The fact is it's not growing the network. They're not going to, what we're hoping to do is to have somebody in your communities that will have low rates, that will service your businesses, that will service your residents and be a competitor to the current operators and do exactly what they did for cities, which was they were competitor, and they disrupted the market for cities.
Brent,
Why don't you want to say why you're not going to fleece us, Brent?
It isn't fleecing. Capitalism
No,
is not fleecing anybody. I'm not saying that you're
I
that
know.
guy, but I'm saying that's contrary to the way the economy works. But I just want to understand that.
Sure. Right now, there's something like 35 or 40 key buildings that are government buildings that are signed up. And that's it out of 16 cities that probably has between 400 and 500 buildings that could be. So my goal is to bring in the services at more number. It's not the rate that I'm looking at increasing at all. What I'm looking at trying to do is provide more services to generate more revenue that way. So it's not about increasing rates. It's about the services.
And I get that. So then how long are our rates guaranteed then to be where they are? How long?
Well, and then if we're talking economy, I don't know. Inflation is like something I can't control as far as an outside body. So, right? Like.
I know, but she said we have an agreement at a certain rate. How long is that contract good for?
Look, it's a marketplace. And if he puts the rates out of what's acceptable in the market, then no one will subscribe and he goes out of business. So I'm not worried about that. What Brent is saying and what we've studied the hell out of this, that he's bringing it to more folks. So the volume will make it up. And secondly, he's introducing an entirely new approach to ISPs, the retail service providers. So there'll be a very low tier of internet access, as well as other things like home security system providers and so forth. We will have a marketplace within the marketplace. But you know, if it's capitalism, if he's priced it wrong, you won't have any customers. So it takes care of itself.
Look, I totally get that. Now I'm gonna get out of the way. But here's the thing, why can't we have a guaranteed rate of where we are now? What do we care what they charge other people? And if he's going to make his money by growing the business of the network, how long are we guaranteed to have our rates where they are? That's all I'm asking. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Mayor Butts makes a valid point, which is we're being asked to approve the assignment of our contract with the initial company to this company. But our contract isn't attached here, is it?
Oh, and I'm sorry, the rates are in our contract.
Right, but they're not here, right?
And the rates say that the more connections that come, they're 1,000, what you're paying, what your cities are paying is 1,000 for 1 gigabit. The more the connections that are made, the rates go down to 900. That's what's in there. And then anything is negotiated after that.
Okay, and for how long are these rates valid? How long is it gonna be 1,000 per gigabyte?
And shouldn't we all have a copy of that contract?
Right.
Well, let me ask, I'm just wondering if we're making this too complex, right?
Yes, we are.
If we're selling an agreement, right? and we're selling an agreement and the agreement doesn't change, right? Going back to both your points, Mr. Bud, Mayor Butts and Zane, if the agreement is not changing, all we're selling is the ownership of that agreement, then what's changing?
We're not even selling it. We're allowing it.
Right, we're allowing it to be sold, right?
So it's like somebody selling your mortgage, we just happen to be able to say, yeah, you can sell it to whomever.
Yeah, and again,
Right, Jackie?
Right, right. And the point is that, and as you say, we're selling the agreement because the current person that has the agreement has not grown it. They've done a good job of maintaining 43 connections. That's it. And Brent is planning, or RSG is planning to grow the network, which will make it more robust, provide more services. You can either have the same stagnant network or you can grow the network. That's where we are.
And
Jackie, I would,
Hawthorne was not happy with the dark fiber,
American Dark Fiber.
American dark. It was terrible.
Jackie, I would also like to add that this wasn't the first effort of American Dark Fiber to try and sell the network. Previously, we had talked with Crown Castle. So the place that American Dark Fiber is at the moment is they no longer want to be the owners of this network. Their values of expanding the network to the communities we would like to reach aren't the same values. So at this point, if this isn't transferred, there's going to be another potential down the line. But as the COG, we've done our due diligence. If we didn't think Crown Castle met the needs and priorities of our cities, and we feel strongly that RSG is that company to take that role and expand us into our communities.
Okay, and I do believe that you believe that, but let me tell you something. There's a reason we have a clause that says we have to prove it. And reason we have to prove it because we have an opportunity to at least improve or maintain our position. And so to do this without seeing what the contract provides for, without the opportunity to say, well, what do we want to improve our situation? I think that's a little bit negligent.
I think, okay, so what's going to happen right now? I mean, we can print out the master services agreement, but what's going to happen is he's buying these. We're not making changes to that agreement at this point.
But
after he buys the existing agreement, then we are going to sit down and negotiate how we move forward. If we could, you're saying we should have negotiated before, but we've been doing this for 2 years to try to find a buyer that would work with us. He is a buyer that will work with us and negotiate. As far as we're concerned, we are either stagnant or we have the ability to move forward. And our rates are secure in our current master services agreement, which I'm trying to call it up here on my computer so that we can print it for everybody. But the rates are in there and we're going to be negotiating any changes to the master services agreement once this sale goes through. But there's no reason to negotiate now because he's not a player. He's not involved.
Could you potentially just email the document
Sure.
and then maybe we vote on this a little later in the meeting? Everybody
can
has
print
one.
it.
Well, saying, we have to vote on it
Mike
today?
J.
Right, well, that was the other question, I guess.
We have to vote on it today.
If we table this until the next,
Why?
still stay interested in purchasing it?
Well, do we have
Want a
to?
new operator.
I've been interested for 18 months now.
Yeah, we've been
Okay.
working on this
You
for
know,
a very long time. And I'm not sure that I don't know if you want
But
to.
since it's the first we've heard about it?
The agreement that I'm purchasing has been in existence for 5 years, so it's not a new agreement that nobody has had access to review or see for the last, since it started. And we have made a commitment to the COG to sit down after we purchase the agreement or the assets to review the agreement and see what we can do. But
I think she has a question.
No, I just have a statement. I think it makes sense to me as somebody who isn't an owner of a contract. I'm not going to negotiate with anybody. So because I'm not, and that transfer, if the other person really isn't there to provide the service and grow the services, then we can just stay with that person. It would just sit there and stay stagnant, or we can transfer it, retain all the same rights that we have in the original contract and renegotiate. That's.
I'm absolutely not saying that we should not do this. What I'm saying as a person who negotiates a lot is that if someone's going to assume an agreement that they want, the leverage lies with the people who are part of the agreement right now, and that's us. And so if you guys, if you just want to say, well, we'll wait until they have control, I don't get that. I really don't. And what is the rush that we have to do this today, tonight? Nobody has the contract. No-
I'll make a
nobody-
motion to approve the resolution.
I second.
Okay. David?
And that just me saying that the study committee also, we debate this.
Yes, it's been in discussions.
Also.
So this isn't the first time, and I'm fairly new and this isn't the first time
Well,
I've
we
heard
either
it.
stay stagnant or the lower income neighborhoods and the businesses don't.
Ready to drop off.
We just stay the way we are.
And I appreciate what you're saying, Mayor Butts, but what we did, I didn't come up with this, or Wally or Jake. We used not just Mike Jenkins, but he gave us what I would consider a top-notch attorney who has been writing our documents, writing letters, laying out our position, talking about what we want out of this network. And that attorney is the one that has drafted this whole thing.
Okay. Call the question.
Would you like me to do, I'm gonna do roll call just for clarity.
Go ahead.
Carson, not present. El Segundo, not present. Gardina?
Yes.
Hawthorne?
Yeah.
Most of Beach, not present.
Yeah, well.
Inglewood?
Here, but not.
Yeah, he's calling us at the party.
I'm
Pretty face.
Oh, no, I negotiate before I do things, but go ahead. No.
Lawndale?
Yes.
Lamita?
Yes.
LA? is not present. Manhattan Beach?
Yes.
TV Estates?
Yes.
Rancho Palos Verdes?
Yes.
Down Beach?
Yes.
Rolling Hills is not present. Rolling Hills Estates?
Yes.
Torrance?
Yes.
SD2, SD4 not present. Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair, we have the two people online would need to hop off and would like to make comments on the Measure M item. If you would like to.
With the approval of the board, they're asking to move to measure at section I because they have to jump up, if that's okay with everything.
You want the staff report first or anything?
Help, right?
Do you want that? Yeah. So we'll move measure F on up. And David, do you want to give the staff report?
Okay, so this is our annual call for projects, annual program update for Measure R and M. We had quite a few requests this cycle, so I did a quick PowerPoint just to summarize it all for everybody. Okay, so for Measure R Transit, we had 2 requests for additional funding and 1 request for a scope of work modification, but no funding change. Carson requested additional funding for their regional transit center. G-Trans requested a scope change for their expanded bus project. They will be purchasing double-decker buses actually, and would like to use a portion of the funding that was already provided to that project to upgrade some facility infrastructure to accommodate those new vehicles. And then they also requested 1.5 million in additional funding for their solar fueling infrastructure project because there were changes in the tax incentives. Overview of the program's funding. There's approximately 32.6 million unprogrammed today. If approved, the 9.45 million would leave us with 23.16 million in the Measure R Transit program.
Through which year?
Through Measure R ends in 2039.
We get new money or that's all the money?
Measure R is limited, so that's it. So for Measure M, this one's a much bigger one, so I'm gonna try and run through this quickly so the folks online can do their comments. We had 16 requests for additional funding for existing projects. There were 2 Carson bike lane projects that experienced cost increases for construction. There's a Carson Street ITS project, a Colville Boulevard widening project, and a traffic signal upgrade project also in the city of Carson. All 5 of those had construction cost increases. Hermosa Beach is doing a study on PCH mobility improvements.
there was staff turnover and a pandemic in between that kind of paused some of the work. So what they need to do is go back and do some additional technical work and community engagement, and we're requesting additional funding to do that augmentation. LA City requested some additional funding for their crossing and pedestrian upgrades project, which is throughout the LA City portion of the COG. LA County has a Westmont, West Athens pedestrian improvement project. Last year, they had to move, there was some unknowns in their design as they were doing their design. So they had to move some of the construction funding that we previously approved to the design phase, and then they're now ready to go into construction and costs have gone up. Rancho Palos Verdes completed or is nearing completion of the design of their Western Avenue congestion improvements project and are requesting funds to move into construction. Redondo Beach has the North Redondo bikeway project, the Felton Lane section. There's a few cost increases for construction there. The other North Redondo bikeway project on Inglewood Avenue is nearing the completion of design and moving into construction. Redondo Beach requested a scope change for their traffic signal communications project. They'd like to move the Torrance Boulevard proposal to Inglewood Avenue and are requesting an additional $300,000 for that. Rolling Hills Estates is moving into construction on their Rolling Hills Road bike lanes project. They also requested additional construction funding due to cost increases for the PV Drive North and Dapple Gray improvements. Torrance requested additional funding for their school safety and accessibility program. That project makes pedestrian and safety improvements around the schools in the city. That's also experienced construction cost increase. And then they are requesting phase 2 design funding for their fiber network and signal optimization project. New projects, we received 11 requests. Carson asked for construction phase funding for a roadway construction project, Leonardo Drive. They are also working on an Olympics-ready smart transportation network project, which would improve do improvements on the games route network and the transit route network. This is environmental and design phase funding. El Segundo requested design phase funding for their downtown El Segundo mobility improvements project, which would improve walkability, bike circulation, and parking in the downtown civic center area. They are bringing $500,000 in their own outside funding to the project. El Segundo also has a Safe Routes to Schools proposal, design and construction phase for this project due to the short time frame between the two. They requested $400,000 and are bringing $100,000 in additional funding. The Smoky Hollow parking project phase 2 would improve multimodal circulation in the Smoky Hollow area of the city. Similarly, design and construction phase due to the timing of each phase. They requested $6 million and are bringing $2 million in additional funding. Gardena requested funding for the traffic signal network upgrade project, which would implement their ITS master plan. Because of the lengthy design for this project, we're recommending design phase funding only. At this time, they are welcome to come back for construction in an upcoming cycle. Hermosa Beach has a Hermosa Avenue safety improvements proposal, which would do curb extensions, class 2 bikeways, some pedestrian refuge islands, and then adjust parking to improve the line of sight. This is environmental and design phase funding. They are bringing $110,000 additional funding to what they requested. Lawndale is moving forward with the implementation of the local travel network, design and construction phases for this project. It's a very short design process. Redondo Beach is the lead agency on a Metro Active Transportation corridor project along Redondo Beach Boulevard. This would improve pedestrian and bicycle facilities through Redondo, Lawndale, Torrance, and El Camino Village, unincorporated LA County. They do have outside funding, and they needed the additional funding to complete the funding proposal. Last two, Redondo Beach Avenue bike and pedestrian safety, in the city of Redondo Beach, traffic signal upgrades, intersection alignments, first last mile connectivities. And then the Redondo Beach School Safety and Accessibility Program, similar to the other ones that we've discussed earlier, for 600,000 and design. And I believe that is all of them. So as of today, we have approximately 141 million in unprogrammed funds through fiscal year 27-28. We had 55.83 million in requests for the existing projects, 28.67 million requested for the new projects, which would leave us 56.6 million through fiscal year 27-28. But in Measure M is a forever tax, and so we will get fiscal year 28-29 funding allocations at the end of this year, which will add to that 56 million balance. And the Transportation Committee recommended that the board approve both the Measure R Transit Investment Program update and the Measure M MSP annual update. And that is all of those.
Questions, comments?
And we have the two folks in the audience and the two folks on that would like.
We'll start with Brianna.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you moving this item forward. I am speaking on behalf of South Bay Forward on the Measure M and R projects. We are happy to see these projects move forward. We support and are happy to see the transit, bike, pedestrian, and safe routes to schools projects. And to speak to the discussion that we had earlier that we heard from Wally, these projects will achieve our shared goals of climate action, VMT reduction, mode shift, clean air, and better commutes in the South Bay. And as Wally shared, we need bold climate action now. In California, transportation is our largest share of greenhouse gas emissions, and this is largely due to individual vehicle emissions. And data from the COG has shown that 70% of local trips in the South Bay are under 3 miles. And so we really support shifting our modes from car travel onto local transit and bicycle mobility for climate action. I want to celebrate a few projects in particular. We want to celebrate Redondo Beach for its progress on building out the South Bay Bicycle Master Plan. And we are in strong support of the Metro Active Transportation Redondo Beach Boulevard project. It will span multiple cities, as David shared. And we really ask for regional coordination on this project, and we ask for the stakeholder cities to advance Class 4 bike lanes across the entire corridor from east to west. In the past, Torrance has rejected fully funded bicycle projects, and we really hope to see this change, especially on this specific project. Next, I just want to applaud the projects in the cities of Carson, Gardena, El Segundo, RPV, Palos Verdes Estates, and Lawndale. And we want to reiterate for the best investment of Measure M funding for bicycle and LTN projects to utilize things like buffers and hardened infrastructure and protected Class 4 bicycle routes to provide the highest standard for safety. And I want to thank you again for advancing these projects. We're happy to see them move forward. We really hope to see the best possible projects for safety and for mode shift. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brianna. Okay, we're gonna move on to Andrew.
Hi there. I'd like to thank you guys for giving me this time to talk. I'd also like to urge you guys to move forward with this project and urge for the COG to reach out and redouble the efforts to make sure that cities know that these funds are available and work with them to better integrate these into a fully usable network of micromobility. An example that I'd like to give that I actually have worked on extensively to show is the idea of a student that is living in Inglewood and yet is going to school at El Camino College. Their cost for them to just go to work in the South Bay, attend college, and attend college, the cost of the car would be the same as the cost of their education. And if they had micromobility access to getting a job and going to school, that would cut that down by greater than a fourth. So it is a big impact to people, especially those that do not have means to pay for large scale things like getting a new car or gas and regular insurance. It is a very big help to them to have these things available. And I'd like to specifically urge to make them more safe, because that is the main inhibitor for people, is that these bike lanes and other avenues of travel don't feel safe to people. And to do that, you can have class 4 bike lanes, you can have separated buffers, and I'd like to urge cities to seriously consider this, because it is a major thing. I should know because I was hit by a car and it nearly killed me. And the main thing for that is there was no protection. So I'd like to urge the cities to, if you are going to do projects, which I hope you will, to seriously consider the protection and safety of these people as they're vulnerable to the whims of these cars. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Graham? Graham Jenkins, go ahead.
Hi, apologies, having some trouble with my video. Hi, I'm Graham. I'm a member of South Bay Forward as well. I'm on the board of the Homeowners Association in Gardena, where I live, though I'm not speaking on their behalf, and I'm a federal employee in El Segundo, on whose behalf I'm also not speaking. I just wanted to say I do strongly support all of the Measure R&M proposals that are before you today. I would also encourage that future allocations of Measure M funding be dedicated to support operational expenses, particularly those that would increase frequency and lower headways to 10 minutes or less across all of the Council of Government member transit agencies. I currently drive 8 miles to work, and I hate that. That is not a thing that needs to be driven. I would much rather take transit, but right now my options are essentially a bus that runs every 30 minutes to a train or something with even more connections. We are lacking east-west connectivity in a huge way with buses, but especially with bikes. And the Redondo Beach Boulevard proposal is a very good one. That's a good start, but we also need something that goes southeast to northwest, basically just hugely increased cross South Bay connections. I would also encourage you all to consider sidewalk widenings and dedicated transit lanes throughout the region, particularly on Artesia Boulevard and some of the other major thoroughfares. Western would be a fantastic contender, especially with the prospect of coordinating with LAC-MTA to push that forward further north. And lastly, I want to say that I am all for fiber, especially municipal, publicly owned and operated fiber, but using transportation funding for it seems like something of a misallocation. And I would encourage you to devote more of that energy and funding towards concrete, electronics, and organization across transit agencies. Many thanks.
Thank you, Graham. We'll move on to, I think it's Rohi Sharma.
Killed it. Up there.
Over.
We'll reclaim the space.
Speak loud.
Yeah, I got that from my vocal teacher. Good evening, everyone. Happy belated Earth Day. It was a couple of days ago. My name is Rohi Sharma, and I'm a Torrance resident. Thank you for the opportunity to provide public comment this evening. I want to start by expressing my gratitude for all of the bikeway improvement and bike lane development projects listed under all of the Measure M updates. But I'm here tonight to pitch an idea that may get all of your cities some extra climate and energy sustainability points based on that presentation earlier. Specifically, I'd like to urge that all bike projects funded by current and future Measure M funds, especially the MAP project, be used to construct Class 4 protected bike lanes, particularly in Torrance, where I live and where I grew up. Thank you to Redondo Beach for leading the way and showing what can be done to keep roads accessible to all kinds of mobility options. Safe roads matter a lot to me. As someone who's been flipped off and yelled at several times while riding in a Cheryl lane in Torrance, I know how stressful it can be to share the road with drivers. And as a driver in Torrance, I know how it feels to be slightly inconvenienced by a cyclist. Business as usual road design, however, doesn't meet the climate moment we're in anymore, as referenced by Mr. Wally. Class 4 protected bike lanes improve safety for all road users, including drivers, pedestrians, and bikers, because it's easier to navigate and comply with safety traffic laws when every mode of transportation has a dedicated piece of the road. Not only do Class 4 protected bike lanes improve physical safety and reduce stress and anxiety for a rider like me, but that median space in between the bike lane and the traffic lanes can also be used to fight climate change and protect biodiversity. Both of these prices should be especially salient for us this Earth Month. Medians can be used for planting shrubs or trees that sequester carbon and provide habitat for butterflies, bees, and all kinds of beneficial critters. Again, thank you, Carson and Redondo Beach, for leading by example with all the Measure M projects, and thank you for your consideration. I hope you consider showing some LUV, love, for our neighborhoods by building more Class 4 protected bike lanes.
Thank you. Okay, lastly, I think we have Andrew Akers.
That's me. Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrew Akers. I have lived and in Torrance actually my whole life. And I've been biking around Torrance my whole life. Now with my son, who's 5, he's got training wheels and he's biking around Torrance with me to school or to the parks around us. And really what I'd love to see is more Measure M funds that are committed to bike lanes that work for him and for me. Like, I'm a strong cyclist. I dress up in spandex and ride on the weekends. I'll go 30 miles. It's no big deal for me to share a lane with a car. But for him, he's 5. He doesn't even know to look around for traffic sometimes. And having a protected space for him to bike is really important to me. So I commend you for leading on the Carson to the Sea project. I know this came up during the consent calendar. And I'd love to see the Council of Governments could take the lead in building more connected bike lanes across different city governments. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, so David, I need to approve I and IA.
Yeah, it looks like the numbering got messed up, but it's I and then IA. Yeah, the Measure R Transit and Measure M MSP annual program.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a question,
Okay. We have a motion, we have a question. Go ahead.
the projects listed there, some of them have a local share in design. And what are the chances of getting money for construction? Because many times, like in Hermosa with this one here is 400, approved 100. We put money up front. We don't have the money to ever construct it. So I'm just wondering what that.
Our policy is that if it's an existing project, it receives priority over new projects. And so when we do our next annual program update and we solicit proposals, what I as staff do is look at how much funding we have left and make a determination, can we accommodate new projects or not? Based on the kind of projections of completing this kind of project.
The idea is we should get funding for the construction, like 100% or the same ratio of what we put in for design.
So the current policy does not require a local match on projects below 20 million, but if it's a competitive cycle, and the projects are scored, the funding you bring to the project provides you extra points. And so it's a way to kind of increase your competitiveness amongst.
But how did the original formula go with 400,000 for design and 100 put up by the local city? What?
That was the city's proposal.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay.
Skin in the game counts.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Skin in the game counts. Okay.
Of course.
All right.
Of course.
Go ahead, David.
Okay, any opposition? Any abstention? Thank you all.
Okay, so let's move on to B-Boy. City of Inglewood, ITC Measure M. Is that the correct one?
I can do this one real quick as well.
Go ahead.
So a couple of years ago, as the city of Inglewood was developing the ITC, one of the elements of the FTA's funding was a requirement for backstop. At the time, the city requested the transfer of the Measure M Sub-Regional Equity Program money, which had initially been allocated to the Centinela Grade Separation Project, be repurposed to serve as the backstop fund for the ITC. At the time, the board put a few conditions on that, one of which was the ITC was to be fully funded by the end of March 2025. Otherwise, the funding would revert back to the Centinela Grade Separation Project. The city is working on the new iteration of the ITC and would like to is requesting an extension through October of that condition that the money revert back to the Centinela Grade Separation so that they can come back to the Transportation Committee and Board and present and propose the new ITC project for approval and sign off by the board. And so this is a time extension through October to allow them to come back and discuss the new version of the project.
I move approval of the
We
extension.
have a motion to approve, second? I have a second. Go ahead, David.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to Jackie, Metro.
Metro report would be Jim.
So on June sixth, there's gonna be a ceremony for the opening of the LAX Metro Connector, which is the people mover to take you from the area to the K line. And that time and location will be forthcoming. I don't know if we're gonna discuss the Senate bill to expand the Metro Board in 2030 to 22 people. It's gonna add all the added supervisors, the county executive, people of the county executive's choosing, which will basically allow the county to dominate the Metro Board. Senator Ben Allen they're having a vote tomorrow preliminarily in a committee. And I think that this is terrible for us.
The steering committee vote, I did something terrible. The steering committee voted, yes. The steering committee voted to oppose and support all the things on the matrix, including SB 220, this bill. They voted to oppose. And what I did that was terrible is that was all supposed to be recommendations to the board. And we found out that there were all these hearings coming up this week and deadlines this week. So I talked to Rodney and I said, there's no way the board is going to not want to do what the steering committee did. So we actually sent our letter already, and because we didn't want to miss any of the deadlines for some of the Wiener bills and everything. So I'm really sorry. I forgot to mention that even though it said recommendations to the board, these letters have been sent. That letter has been.
Yeah, we thought it was important to get that, especially the one you're talking about. It was very important for us to
We
have
opposed it.
our
Yes,
name.
we did.
definitely.
That's good on us.
And we had a meeting with Ben Allen's office. Did you know this? We had a meeting with Ben Allen's office, and it was shocking to me because I really think Ben Allen is very, very good about constituents like cities. And he said, well, you know, the county's on there and the county represents cities. So what's your problem?
Wait. I had this text string with him that went about 10 texts, and he tried that with me.
Yeah.
I said, what you should have the same 11 million people, most of them are represented by local government. And all you're doing is adding people, so the weight goes to the county to decide what they want to do. It's absolutely terrible.
The call we had was with all the executive directors, the others in the county, and we all talked to him about it. And at the end of the call, he said, I hear you, I'm listening, let me take this all under advisement. So I thought what we would do, and I've talked to Metro staff about this, is the hearing is next week. If for some reason the bill doesn't die, which maybe it won't, but the best thing would be for the bill to die. If it doesn't, then I think we have to sit down and he indicated he was willing to take variations from us. I don't know, and we should figure out if that's necessary.
Jackie, another important point is that when they created the Metro Board, the legislation had provision on how you would expand or contract the board, and they're ignoring that. They're ignoring that, and what you're doing is giving an overrepresentation to one body for people that are already represented, you know, by the independent cities.
That's what Sacramento does best.
No. This is power grab for somebody.
Power grab's the bill.
SB
220.
SB 220.
Especially the county CEO in it, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a terrible, terrible bill.
It's a terrible.
And
They have a lot of power.
but it's.
Do we know if Contract Cities, Cal Cities is taking a position on it?
I don't know I don't know that everybody even knows.
Division of Cal Cities is, I think either opposing it or was going to.
They're going to oppose. I mean, Jeff's been involved. Jeff was at the meeting, I think, with Ben Allen.
And the reason I asked, we had the Contract Cities Legislative Committee meeting yesterday, and obviously, you know, the more we get out there and oppose the dang thing, and the earlier, the better off we're gonna be.
Absolutely. Like I said, he went to high school with my daughter.
No, it wasn't on the radar screen.
Right.
That's why I asked the question.
That's why we sent the letter out immediately.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh,
we sent our letter.
Thank you, Jackie.
We sent our letter to all the other COGs, and I'm getting their letters now, so they're sending their letters.
Everybody.
Very good.
Is there a reason he's like, was willing to amend it, but not totally, like, what's motivating him? to
Well,
push this?
being motivated by some interest.
Other politics.
Yeah,
Drank the Kool-Aid.
Have you running for the supervisor?
For the executive director of the county.
No.
Board of supervisors. Give him a third limit to comment.
For state treasurer.
Why would he want so many other seats with him on the board? He's already gonna.
Well, oh, no, well, no, not necessarily. They get 5 seats right now. Supervisors do. They're expanding the board, and so everyone on the board is gonna get a seat. The county exec is gonna get a seat, and he gets to pick 3 more people to be on the board. It's outrageous. It's outrageous to have one entity have such control of a multi-billion-dollar operation.
Where's the bill now? What's the next step?
And it's in the committee.
There's a hearing.
With, what committee?
Senate Transportation.
Okay.
The expansion in conjunction with measured.
Let me interrupt for a second. He says it's to conform with the measure that was just voted on in the county to expand the board. And he just says, we just have to do it. I says that doesn't make any sense. There's still 11 million people in the county, and most of them are still represented by independent cities. So what are you talking about? He had no answer. So this is about people that want to run for the board. That's all it's about.
Well, it also has to be somebody is advocating for it. There is somebody thinks that they can get big dollars out of it.
You know what we're talking about. Right.
Without names.
Go ahead, Jack.
Okay, so no, just, that was the Metro report. Do you have anything else?
That is it. Wasn't that enough?
Okay, then the micro, I'm gonna save time. There's really no update now on the micromobility. We did that.
Okay.
So next it would be Kim.
And I'm not gonna add any more either because we already had our presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I mean, like that,
Thank you.
But you always know that Ronson's got plenty to say. So we're up on Ronson. Before Ronson gets up, I want to say.
Ronson, I would have you had it twice.
And I sent this to the city of Redondo Beach. Ronson sent, I think you should send it to me, that in the Shasta County Board of Supervisors, the city of Reading, right, was talking about functional zero. And they talked about Redondo Beach and the South Bay Cities Council of Governments and doing functional zero. So we have made our presence known all the way up the state of California. I was just really excited about that.
Good job.
Congratulations, Redondo.
Thank you.
All right, I cut out some slides, it's getting late, so I'll try to make it
We
quick.
appreciate that.
Zane mentioned before, how do we know our staff is participating in these COG programs? Well, I have proof. So that's Patty and Sarah from Manhattan Beach and Hermosa Beach. And that's, Zolma and the Torrance team. We're trying to end homelessness in the South Bay. Also, to the left of me is Addie. You may know her, she's my project coordinator. We just promoted her to project manager. She's shown tremendous leadership the past year.
What you should know is that you all know about the homeless task force, but this is a meeting we have quarterly with the cities on top of the homeless task force.
Just quickly, the supervisors adopted, Measure A, there's Measure A money. Half of it, a little bit more than half of it is legacy Measure H kind of money. And then the other portion of it is the CASA, the building and preservation and prevention money. On the legacy Measure H money, the supervisors had a choice between 6 different scenarios that would have given the COGs in different regions different amounts of money. The low range was 2.4 million, the high range was 3 million.
They actually picked the scenario that gave us the highest amount, which is $3 million, which is great. It's still pretty modest, you know, like to run a small shelter every year is like $2 million. So with $3 million, you know, we have to split that amongst our 15 cities, non-incorporated areas in LA and our portion of LA City. So it's not like we can fund a shelter with $3 million. So we still have to be very strategic with how we use our $3 million. And the next slide is our draft recommendation of what we want to fund using the $3 million. That is the first action item for you all tonight. Just running through it. We are going to continue with our beach cities case management teams. We are also we're still discussing with the beach cities. We've been funding some services around their homeless court, and they also have this alternative crisis response program that they need funding for. And so we're still deciding how much to fund there, but it's roughly around 150 that we're earmarking for those programs. Hawthorne, we are continuing to fund the intensive case management program, but we're also adding some money because they do need some help with their access center. And so we're going to do that. We're going to continue to fund the Inglewood Coordinator Program. We're going to continue funding the Gardena Coordinator Program. We're going to also add some money because they also need some additional help. We're going to fund the Torrance Shelter. That was well, by the way, I should mention that we did send out funding requests for all the cities, and this is what we've gotten back. And so Torrance requested 310 for their shelter. We will continue to fund our client aid. We have a motel SRL leasing program that some cities participate in. We have a shared housing to employment program that all cities participate in. It's a really great program that puts people into group homes and gets them jobs. We also are looking to contract for a document specialist to get people document ready for housing, as well as to help them apply for housing and also maybe get them into care court, the mental health court. We're gonna have a regional housing retention specialist so that we can make sure people who are housed stay housed. And then the housing focused case management. This is case management services. This is kind of bundled with additional funding we're getting from Supervisor Mitchell and also potentially Supervisor Hahn. But we're providing case management in areas that have not been traditionally served fully. So like this includes Inglewood, Lawndale, Lomita, some of our incorporated areas. And then we have a housing locator position that we're splitting with our La Casa funding, which I'll get to a little bit later. We have some of our program expenses. And then also we have some Measure H carryover funding that we're going to use for time limited subsidies. And we're talking to the Inglewood team, we're talking to Roberto about what else we want to fund in Inglewood. So that's the game plan for our Measure H funding. And like to get a motion to support that.
So moved. Okay.
And like he said, this is a call for projects. So all of your cities are really on this chart because you can access those programs as well.
David?
Sorry, who made the motion?
But
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Just wanted to quickly add, our last pit count, we had less than 1,000 people on the streets in our 15 cities. So that's amazing. And this budget is gonna put 500 people off the streets annually. So we're gonna solve homelessness pretty soon, guys. So it's pretty exciting.
And then Bronson will be gone soon. You won't have a job.
South Bay.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so we did that. Those are the dates.
Yeah, you have a WLCAC.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Also, I need an action. We have a WLCAC contract. They're gonna be providing time limited subsidies. They're also the case managers for like Lomita, Gardena, and some of our other cities in the southeastern part, and Carson as well. Southeastern part of our region. But they want to do time limited subsidies, and so the contract is for them to do it. There's something a little bit unusual about the contract in that because paying for rent is such a high burden for these nonprofits, they're asking for some prepayment. So what we're going to do is ask the county for prepayment. Once they give us prepayment, we're going to give WLCAC the prepayment funding so that they can pay rents and not utilize their working capital to do that. So I need a motion to approve that contract.
So move.
Second.
Hey, David?
Montero, and then who's the second? And then any opposition? Any abstentions?
Okay, before Ronson goes on, I wanted to mention, I sent you all an LA Times article, which really, I hope you read it because it's so confusing. And you can see it's just a mess. And so you're going to be hearing from us from now on, probably on two different kinds of funding. We're going to get the Measure A funding that's like the Measure H for services, and we're going to get the La Casa funding. And it's different budgets. And so you pass the one budget, but we're still working on the other one.
Yeah, and then in that article, there is, they laid out pretty well the metrics that we have to follow and the goals for the county. And we're gonna beat those goals, but it's like they want to reduce street homelessness by 30% in 5 years. So we're gonna beat that. So what Jackie is saying, we have La Casa money coming our way. We're projecting about $9 million coming to us. The way it's structured, we're a partner with the West Side on this. We're considered one sector. And so we're gonna get 9 million, the West Side's gonna get 5 million. On the next, hopefully by the next board meeting, I'll have the budget for that, at least part of that $9 million for you all to approve. But that will go primarily, it's going towards affordable housing development, preservation. I think preservation is a big component of ours. We have a lot of naturally occurring affordable housing that we want to preserve. And then, but initially what we'll want to spend the money on is the prevention piece, to make sure people are stably housed and not falling into homelessness. So that'll be on the next board meeting, hopefully.
So what's the timing on the 9 million?
Yeah, I mean, I want to get it out the door by July 1. But the Casa is new. They're they're not 100% ready. We have a meeting on Monday, and everyone's welcome to attend.
Well,
They're not.
I don't know, the circus. But what we did is, we invited the new La Casa CEO, who is now not going to stay. And we have Miguel Santana and Ryan Johnson, that's who he is. And then I guess Tommy Newman's coming, who's the CEO from United Way, and he's going to be there. And he's the La Casa CEO now. We've invited Paige will be there from the ECRA, and all the sub-regional coordinators are going to be here. And also the independent cities, like we have somebody from Pasadena and Glenville and Long Beach, so that we can sit down and talk to La Casa, which is now like 3 people or something, and has all this money and is supposed to get it out by July 1st. Ronson, I think, is a little bit optimistic.
When will this be?
Monday at 2:00 here.
Here?
In this room. And we're going to be talking about just having a dialogue with mostly Miguel Santana and Ryan Johnson about what they planned for La Casa, and you know, how, what our role is, because we want to impress on them that we're just not cities, we're partners, we're the people getting the homeless off the street. And just as an aside, I was reading the paperwork that they have to submit to get this budget. It is atrocious. It is so much paperwork and so detailed. And I keep wanting to scream and say there is a really good metric. And the metric is how many homeless are off the street, and stop giving us all this paperwork, because that means you can't spend time getting homeless people off the street. So we want to discuss things like that. Let's get some common sense into this new agency and not recreate another bureaucracy.
So this is the new agency from the county that's gonna be here?
Yeah, John Marish will be here. He's our delegate on that new agency.
John Risch is our delegate, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be concerned that we're, hey, here, take all this money, but we don't really have a plan to do, something with it. And that just reinforces what we've done wrong in the past, is just throw money out there without any real intent of what we're gonna do with it.
Yeah, the one good thing about this agency and the way it's structured is you see these are all the eligible regions. There's only a dozen of them. And so 70% of the money has to pass through. So this is more of a direct return than Measure H was. So that's good news, because we have more control. So that's a good thing about La Casa.
Versus.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great thing it's coming to the COG, or we say through the COG.
Right.
I'm weary of, hey, here's your pot of gold, go do something with it by tomorrow. That doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
Not the most efficient way to run government.
Just to note, like, that's in the San Gabriel Valley COG, for example, they have a housing trust fund. And in their housing trust fund, they already have 150 projects in their pipeline. So for them, that funding is going to be plug and play. It's going to come into the COG, go to the trust fund, it's going to go out the door right away. So So some of these regions are prepared to spend that money.
So we're exploring a housing trust fund,
Yes.
right? And again, I don't know when that's gonna come to fruition.
Not for another.
Well, I mean, certainly not by July first,
Oh.
obviously, but there's an opportunity, if you will, to do some funding to that trust fund.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's already
this would be
built in.
seed money.
Okay.
This would be seed money for the trust.
Okay.
Ronson, is this money, it could be like possibility to extend the tiny home or no?
Not La Casa.
Okay.
That's interim. Unless you were to make your tiny homes semi more permanent, then.
Okay, all right.
Maybe. Yeah.
We have,
Jackie, let me understand this. This discussion on Monday, is it about allocation of money or is it just him discussing the status of the breakup? What's happening on?
no, and really, I don't want a whole bunch of people coming because what we did is we invited a representative from every agency to come and have them explain to us how they are gonna start this agency, how it's gonna, what they think to me, I'm hoping they're gonna tell us what the first year is gonna look like. How is it gonna roll out? When are we gonna get the funding?
It's like a pulse check.
Yeah, and what is our role and how can we be part of this? And don't ignore us, we don't want it recreated like another agency. We want to be partners.
We're gonna use this existing allocation matrix, is that what we're saying?
I don't think we're gonna get into all of this. I think we're gonna get into just more generally what their scope of work is and what their plan is and how they're gonna roll it out and when.
Like one of the things we want them not to do is create like another LASA, right?
Please don't.
We don't want that, and we want to advise on how not to do that.
So this is preventative funding, right?
Yes.
Yeah, some of it's gonna be used for prevention, like $80 million of the $200 million.
So I guess I'd ask, maybe it's in that Monday meeting, how do they identify that target population needs preventive funding?
From homeless count probably.
Well, yeah, it's actually, they've.
Not so you don't become homeless is what I'm, right? I mean, it's our senior population or.
Do that, then help me.
Well, I hear you, it's kind of like, okay, if it's truly preventive.
Johnson, was it done in a scientific way or was it?
It's pretty scientific. I mean, it's like you have to have a little.
I had to hear that in the process.
But yeah, they will define who's eligible for prevention. And that's where our lawyers are going to be involved.
And the lawyers of BKK that they've hired, so that's who we see pretty much now. Okay.
Just one last thing, they're creating a new county entity for homelessness. They're gonna have an interim director by July 1. And by January, they're gonna merge LASA and the Housing for Health, which is part of DHS. Not all of LASA, they're gonna probably cherry pick what they want to keep. And then that'll create this new county entity, which will probably have, just to start, at least over 700 employees already. And so now's the time to provide feedback on this. And, we're providing our feedback. Our board 2 years ago actually provided feedback on this, like we should do it in a county entity and it should look like this. We didn't say it should be like 700 employees, but we wanted like a new accountability structure and homelessness. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Seniors.
Okay, do we have anything to say on seniors?
No.
Okay, I wanted to mention on REAP 2, right now we have the commercial redevelopment project. We are in firms next week and the steering committee will bring a recommendation. In May, you'll be approving a firm that the study. Second is the housing trust, and I wanted to mention something on that. And the mobility hubs is the third. The mobility hubs is also doing some literature review, and we're going to have an RFP for that pretty soon. But on the housing trust, I just have to tell you this because it just is amazing to me. Our housing consultant, who's done a good job, had one of his tasks was to do a needs assessment. I might have mentioned this at the steering committee. The needs assessment says, for the South Bay to meet our RENA allocation, you take all available funding that we know that we might be able to get. We would need to meet our RENA allocation $1.133 billion annually. So I said, it's not a question of failure. It's a question of how much we fail, right? That's where we really are right now. And so I'm trying to yelled this from the rooftops that I think steering committee said, Rena Revolution. And so I actually brought it up at the SCAG meeting and I said, we had a meeting yesterday with Komei Ajise, the executive director, and all the executive directors. And it was a virtual meeting and I mentioned this and I said, if that's the number for the South Bay, what's the number for the SCAG region? And it was silence. No one said a word. And I thought, we're never going to get this changed. I mean, you know, we should all be screaming from the top of our lungs. And then the other thing I wanted to tell you that at the city managers meeting, they were saying that we're not even going to meet, and the housing guy was there, our housing trust fund guy. And they told him, we're not going to meet our moderate income. We're not going to meet any of the RENA goals because no one's coming to build. You know, cities don't build and the developers just are not coming in to build. So we're not going to meet any of the goals on any level.
It's just the idiocy of the economics. You can't build affordable low-income housing on multi-million-dollar pieces of dirt.
You know, it's a crazy concept, right? So I was very upset at my colleagues because I think that we should all be organizing. I think that this has become so absurd that you know, I said, would some other people share their numbers? How does it cost for us to meet RENA? Why don't we share these numbers and just take it to Sacramento and say, give us the money, give us 1.13 billion annually. So, do anything with these numbers. If you're going to Sacramento, I'll give you the information.
The communities in lower income areas not cooperating enough? Is that a problem?
Well, the other thing that I thought was so interesting is Ben Allen again has another bill. And we're monitoring this bill. And his bill says that the RENA allocation for the fire area should be moved, right? Well, yeah.
Be able to like share.
Yeah, so they can move, they can share their allocation. And so if you can move their RENA allocation, I said, my reaction at the SCAG meeting is I said, well, what we would like, if he's going to do that, then a trust, if you form a trust, the trust should share the RENA allocation. And then everybody can benefit and put into the trust and they can all share the RENA allocation. Nobody said anything to that either. And I mean, the cities are just like brain dead, it seems to me, at least at these organizations. And so, but if you can't, if the Pacific Palisades can't take all the density that RENA would require, then why should some other area take it? Or why should you build anything in Pacific Palisades if it can't take it?
I mean, if anything, you think the burn areas have a greater opportunity to do something.
Well, this is what his bill is. So anyway, it's interesting. And now we have a very important item. And that is, we're going to get kicked out of here, and physically our office is going to be kicked. Our lease is up on June 30th. Like, do we have to leave the room? And so David is going to go through the office space and relocation, and we're now talking about the lease. So David.
Okay, well, steering committee is proposing to relocate 357 Van Ness Way, which is near the corner of Van Ness Avenue and Delamo. They are recommending actually 2 suites. The first floor is parking lot access directly into the boardroom, into the space. I don't know if you'll be able to, you can't see it, but kind of the upper top is the parking lot. There's a reception, and then the big central area will be the new boardroom. That boardroom is about 1,500 square feet, I believe. This one's about 900. So think of this plus another half, much larger. That total bottom floor is 3,855 square feet. And there would also be some offices and a small conference room as well down there.
So Jackie, you want to move there?
Do I want to move there?
You want to move there?
I think we have to. That's it.
Okay, I'll move it.
Well, I think we want to go through some of the details.
Wait, we just sold our internet without talking about it, and now we're gonna kicked out. Well, I'm moving it and then I'm.
Yeah, because
Are you
I
gonna
saw
help
the
us move?
presentation when I saw it.
I'd love to.
I saw the presentation.
You have to go.
So maybe we should
It's
vote.
8:30.
Maybe we should vote now.
I think what's important that you should know is that it is a 7.5 year lease, actually. We're getting 8 months free rent. And this is some. of
Spread throughout
It's a spread.
throughout the term of the lease.
And
free
what,
rent,
what- and what we found out is that the actual square footage price does not cover a common area fee. It was different than where we are here. So we're gonna have to pay our own electrical and our own janitorial. So the rent is going to be higher than we thought, but still
No,
lower than here.
there is a common area fee.
Yeah.
Like there is here, but that's a different
But
thing.
it doesn't
But,
cover.
our suite itself is not a full, cost in the lease amount. We have to pay for our electricity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the common area is capped at,
Thanks, James.
Yeah.
at the 25 cents a square foot.
So the other thing that you should know, is there more?
I don't have a quorum now.
Oh, come back. Come back.
Just.
Wait, so we get, can we vote?
Yeah, for the vote. You
Yeah,
have to
let's just
vote.
vote. We gotta vote. Everybody back in the room.
Above you back.
Only Debbie needs to be here, right?
Man.
Right now.
Oh, I thought we were over for him.
Can't leave the vote. So let's do what.
Okay,
Wait,
Yeah, but you didn't vote it.
We're not done yet. The votes. I have a motion.
Jane made,
Second.
who's got a second?
By Quinn.
Okay, we got a second.
Okay, any opposition? Any abstentions? No, thank you all.
Okay.
Anything else we need to vote on?
Anything else we need to vote on?
Vote on.
Yes, there is something you need to vote on, and that is the appointments to the outside agencies.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so there's a memo that came out before you today, and we want. Everybody leaving?
No,
Contested-
Let's have a quorum.
Non-contested are recommended for approval. The contested, we do this for the committee. The committee had an interview session, and they're recommending Bill Uphoff and Assam Sheikh for Transportation Committee. It says here CEHD, but it should be Transportation. And they're recommending those two for the SCAG appointments, and Roy Love, Courtney Miles, and Andrea Riley for the three applicants for the Metro Service Council.
Move to approve.
Second.
David?
Any opposition? Any abstention?
I'll abstain.
Anything else?
In every group.
Oh, his name is on, his name is on.
Oh, yes.
That's the little things, you know?
He'll be fully correct.
Exactly. So,
Yeah, I know, but.
Tell you in June again, but we don't know where the June board meeting will be. It's all gonna depend on how much we, have to leave here and whether we can move here and get into one of these places.
Okay.
Ever. So just stay tuned. If you're coming to the COG in a couple of months, figure out where we are.
Next board meeting, everyone should dress in jeans because Jackie's gonna pick us to work moving furniture.
The offer.
What else?
What you have enough.
You're gonna be my alternate on the restoration.
I don't think you have.
No.
I don't think.
Okay, we're done?
Let's have.
Okay,
I know.
so
Wait.
those that are gonna stay for the executive session, it won't take that long. It'll be a short discussion. It's all about Jackie. So we need to have a.
Just call Jackie short.
Otherwise, we're adjourned.
And then adjourned.
Yes, we're adjourned for the general session. Now
recessing to.
recessing the closed session.
Okay.
Okay, recess the close.